Well, you now should be able to hear me on YouTube. That's fun. Let's see. Let's test this out. YouTube is working now. Geez, I'm gonna have to go back now and and re-talk about everything I said. So audio heard it on you know what? I'll put something out after as far for YouTube for the YouTube crowd about the show announcement, the major announcement going forward. And other than that, you just if you're watching on YouTube, I apologize for the technical difficulties there with the audio, that mishap. But really, what you just missed was given the current score update for the TGL match going on right now. Jupiter versus New York. New York now hammered again and got another declining hammer from Jupiter Link. So New York's now up 5-3 heading into the head-to-heads. So that's good for New York. But let's just pick up where we left off because why not? So once again, sorry, YouTube. Jump in the comments, though, if you have any questions of what you missed. I'll be happy to refill you in. Brooks Koepka, though, we started talking about it last week with Bud. We speculated that he would, he's left live. We knew that news last week. We speculated that he would have, the 1 year suspension would carry through for the PGA, that he'd be able to play in the majors, and anything else that he has that exemption for as a previous major winner. And we got some, well, at least what I thought was surprising news because I wasn't expecting the PGA to go in this direction, but I think it's telling for a lot of reasons. But let's start with just the kind of the meat and potatoes, the guts of the conditions that Brooks is now going to actually be coming back as soon as the end of the month. He'll be playing at the Waste Management in February. He's going to be playing at Farmers Insurance at the end of the month. So Brooks is going to be back. He's going to be able to play in his exempt majors as well. It seems like he's not going to be allowed to play in signature events, I don't believe. But other than that, he's going to be able to play most of anything else if he's got an exemption or if he chooses to. It seems to be that's going to be the way. But let me pull up the exact stipulations the PGA put in place. Now, I will say, as I pull this up, the PGA put a February 2nd deadline on players to kind of make this decision to return this year with these set stipulations that I'm about to read off to you. So they've created a window of time that if you want to jump ship from LIV, you can. I believe this announcement coming with Brooks was kind of a stoking of the smoke signal, if you want to say, towards the other players that they really want back from LIV. Your John Rahm, your Bryson DeChambeau, Cam Smith. Those are the major winners that are over there on LIV right now that they'd really like back. They obviously don't really care to have Phil Mickelson back or Sergio Garcia or anything like that. But Bryson and Cam and Rahm, definitely the guys that they would want with Brooks to come back over. So I think the announcement of the Brooks news, as quickly as it was definitely part to allow Brooks to start playing as early as he could, but also a little signal like, hey guys, we're opening this window. It's not going to be open forever. It's going to close in a few weeks. Now's your chance. Now, we did hear from all three of those players I just mentioned earlier today. Bryson stated he's under contract with LIV until the end of 2026. He intends to stay with LIV. He's not going anywhere. It wouldn't shock me if that changed come the end of 2026. But we'll see. He might be one of those where I could see him wanting to have to just go all in with LIV and wanting to kind of have it almost like an ownership stake and be part of the decision making of the future of LIV, because they are changing the landscape. As we said last week, they're going to be switching to 72 holes, and they just finished this this entry tournament or promotion tournament, whatever you want to call it, this past weekend, where it was basically a qualifying tournament where the top few players got to qualify to be in LIV for this season. So the biggest name in that they qualified was Anthony Kim. He's getting a second chance at LIV after being relegated out. So he'll be back after having, for him, a fairly impressive weekend back on the golf course. So that's hopeful. Maybe we'll see some more Anthony Kim. We'll keep an eye on him. But back to the matter at hand here. The big guns, the major winners over at Live, they have this pathway now. The PGA wanted to make it clear that they can take this pathway, but they have very specific stipulations that they have to follow. And I get why the PGA did this, because with the way they've structured the PGA since the creation of Live, at the request of the players, giving them creating a program where they have equity, shared equity amongst the players. Like you can't just leave, get your bag of money, talk shit about the PGA, and then come back, jump right back in and have this equity stake in the PGA. I get them wanting to protect that. I get there being a penalty. It all makes sense. So, so we will, let's get into what, so basically the players who are eligible for these stipulated, these stipulations to come back would be anyone who's won a major in the last 5 years, or the players. So the players or major in the last 5 years is allowed to kind of come into these stipulations to work the way back. They will not have access to the player equity program for 5 years. So after 2030, they would be allowed to start receiving payments from that bonus program that the PGA put in place. Upon acceptance of these stipulations to return and take this path, they would have to make a $5 million charitable donation. Great look. Might as well throw that in there, get some help for the charities, because that's a big part of the PGA structure is working with these charities, working with these companies. It's all about partnerships. So I think that's a good look. That's a good thing. Like I said, you have to have had to have won. So that's the part where they're really tunneling in on. They're looking at the landscape of who's playing on Live right now. They know what they're doing when they say you have had to have won a major in the last, or the players in the last 5 years. That the only people that qualify for that are Brooks, Bryson, Cam, and Rahm, and those are who they want back. So it all makes sense. But they have created this path, which I'm not surprised they created a path. I'm surprised at how quickly they created the path. Like I said, I expected Brooks to get finish out his 1 year suspension. Well, not 1 year, it wasn't 1 year at the time, but I expected him to be suspended for the entirety of this year before they let him come back. So this is all happening a little bit. I'm a little faster than I thought. I'm happy to see Brooks coming back. Love to have him on the tour again. I think that's good for everybody. That's good for golf. So I love that. And the February 2nd deadline aspect of this, I think that is to try to create chaos for Liv. They're obviously wanting these guys to decide quickly. The timing of this coming right off of this announcement, coming right off of Liv's promotion tournament that I mentioned they just had this weekend, which honestly for Liv, it was pretty decently covered for a non-main tournament for some sort of golf league. Like it got some spread on the news, or at least in the golf news. Like I was getting alerts about it. It was showing up on my social media feed. So that I will say that seemed to have been a success this past weekend for the Liv. It does seem to be that they're making some good choices under the new kind of management and what they're going to do for the future of that league. It's going to stay that league. It's going to stay what it is. That's fine. There's a place for it, whatever. It's never going to be the PGA still. But I think it was overall a successful weekend for Liv, which makes the timing of the PGA announcement make all that much more sense, because I think they want to cut them down. I think they just want to remind them who's boss, put them in their place, and just remind them that this is still where guys want to be. So they were hoping that at least one more of those other three, Bryson, Rahm, or Smith, would jump ship and join Brooks coming back. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't look like they're going to get that. Maybe Cam, honestly, like Bryson and Rahm Bryson especially was very just to the point, short and sweet. I'm under contract. I'm not going anywhere. So I don't even think he's entertaining it. Rahm was slower to a response. he was sitting right next to Bryce on the stage. They were both asked the same questions. Rom's response was a bit more was slow, hesitant, and methodical, but I think it was him just making sure he used the right words. I think Rom will come back eventually, but he's still too new into the live experience where I don't think he's ready to leave that yet. I think he's going to see what happens still. So that doesn't surprise me. But Cam Smith's response was interesting. His response came after the fact. It was separate. Like I said, Bryson and Rom were on stage together, answered together. Bryson answered first, which I think kind of laid the groundwork and guided Rom's response a little bit because, like I said, Bryson was just so straight to the point. Nope, not going anywhere. I'm under contract. Boom. So that kind of led the way for what Rom could say. Cam didn't have anything like that. He didn't have any guidance. He was asked alone and had to kind of roll and figure out the answer best for himself. And he basically just said he hasn't given it much thought yet. He said he hasn't given it much thought yet. He's going to think about it. Why wouldn't he? He hasn't exactly had the success on live, nearly anywhere near the success on live that he had on the PGA Tour for a short time on the PGA Tour. And he was much more hesitant, much more wishy-washy, left, I think, more doors and windows open in his answer. So I'll be curious to see if he's a last-minute kind of jump from live as that February 2nd deadline approaches. I mean, that's like 3 weeks away. So 3 weeks is a long time to let something like that, a big decision, sit in your head and kind of fester on you. So we'll see what Cam Smith does. Like I said, I think it's going to be at least another year until Bryson or Rom were to jump. But I do think eventually they will, or at least Bryson will just give up competitive golf altogether and do the YouTube thing. We'll see. But I do think he likes to compete, so I guess that's probably a stretch. But so what I'm also curious, and we'll see as things come out, I guess we won't know for like another year, is if they do only get Brooks back this year, is this going to be a thing that next year, sometime in January, they're going to open up this window again? It might look slightly different. And if they do open up a window again, are the stipulations going to be the same? They're going to be different. They're going to be harsher. Like, I'll be curious to see where we go from here, how we continue to see the leagues coexist, and eventually, hopefully, put their swords down and just choose to live, let guys go back and forth, whatever it is. I will be curious to see what happens. What happens with that. Now, one player that I've seen some comments about when it comes to this deal specifically is another player who has been widely talked about and about how he's been banned and kind of cast aside for a choice he made to a smaller level, but Wesley Bryan. So Wesley Bryan, professional golfer, somewhat of a successful career, but for the most part, I'd say his time on the PGA Tour had high expectations and might not have fully met those due to injury and due to struggling performances. But no matter what you say, I think he came in with high expectations. And I think if you were to measure his PGA starts up to his expectations, I think most people would probably say he fell a little short there. But regardless, that's just me sputtering on about Wesley Bryan. Where Wesley Bryan has found a home for himself and some success and relevance is on YouTube Golf. Him and his brother George have one of the most successful YouTube channels for golf content out there. Entertaining stuff. Still a fantastic top 1% of the golfers in the world kind of stuff. But he was banned because he took place in an unsanctioned live event that aired on YouTube. Now, the phrasing I want to clarify here is that when people have been comparing, Brooks being able to return after taking the money and going to live, and now he's being able to return, but Wesley Bryan is still banned and the way they're saying is Wesley Bryan is still banned for doing a live YouTube video. That's not entirely accurate to the landscape of what was going on. Yes, It was a live sponsored event, and yes, it was on YouTube. What you got to remember though is that the fact that it was on YouTube really doesn't change any aspect of the circumstances for the PGA, because YouTube is basically just a network in Liv's eyes that they're using to broadcast their tournaments. Like, you can see their stuff on YouTube. It's YouTube TV, YouTube, whatever. Like, they are partnered with Liv in that way that they can broadcast their content and their tournaments through YouTube if needed. So yes, this wasn't a main tournament. It was a smaller kind of off to the side event, but it was still Liv sponsored, and that was where PGA drew the line. Is that he knew the consequences if he did it. He did it. So the ban came down, and I get it. Those are the rules. You might not like it, but those are the rules, and he made a choice knowing the rules. So he's suspended, he's banned, whatever you want to call it. So yes, Brooks has this path back. Wesley Bryant doesn't, because Brooks is a multi-major winner. Brooks is a guy that is a player that, even though he's not on YouTube like, Wesley or like Bryson or whatever, like his name recognition is still much more sellable and marketable. That the PGA wants him back in tournaments. He's going to make sponsors happy that he's there. He's going to bring people out in the crowds that he's in the tournament again. So that's something that is useful to the PGA. Having Brooks there is useful. Having Wesley Bryant there isn't going to move the needle. So they're not going to go out of their way to create special exemptions and stipulations for Wesley to come back just because, he did his on YouTube, and instead of taking them, but that doesn't matter. Like, they don't need him. So they 100% don't think when they did these stipulations and created this plan, they never once thought about Wesley Bryant or including a way for him to come back, because they don't care. They don't need him. It's a hard truth. And I'm not trying to talk shit on Wesley Bryant. I think Wesley Bryant is an amazing golfer, a great content provider as far as YouTube golf. I think he's personally, him and George and the rest of YouTube golf community pushes the game of golf forward more than Live Golf, but that's always been my stance. I've never been a Live Golf fan. But regardless, Wesley's going to be fine. He's going to do his thing. I do think at some point he will be back on the PGA Tour, or at least have the opportunity to work his way back to the PGA Tour. I don't think that story is necessarily done, is over for him. We're in this moment where I think we're almost out of the tension between the two leagues. He's still just kind of caught up in that riptide of, the back end of this. And at some point he's going to get spit out, wash ashore. Things will be fine. He'll be able to make his choice about, does he want to go back through Korn Ferry to earn his card? Does he want to do this, or does he just want to do the YouTube thing? We'll see. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. Doesn't change things for me. Brooks changes things for me. Having Brooks at the Farmers Insurance, having Brooks at the Waste Management, the Waste Management especially was already must-see TV for golf fans. There's going to be an even more of an extra buzz now this year, knowing that he's back. That's just the kind of gravitas that Brooks brings with him. So I'm here for it. I love that. It's all very interesting. The politics are very interesting. And it is what it is. Like I said, I'm surprised that the PGA went this route this early. I thought they'd make Brooks sweat a little more. But Brooks already answered, and he's taken the deal, and he's, gracious and excited and has said all the right things so far. So, and then on the flip side, Liv came out with a statement today. I'm actually going to see if I can pull up the full word-for-word statement and read it to you here, because I did find the tone of it, the tone of it interesting. So let me see, Liv golf statement on PGA. So I want to see, here we go. Just want to see the full statement here. Here it is. Just had to find the right link. So Liv comes out today with their official statement on all of their accounts on their website. I saw it on Twitter, on the Liv Golf Twitter account. And I'm just waiting for it to load up right now, so I apologize. But the tone of their statement is mainly what I took away, because what I took away from their tone was beaten. I took the way I read the statement was coming from an organization that didn't really know what to do, was taken a little off guard, and they're trying to save face. So what Live Golf came out and said today was, from the outset, Live Golf has championed an open ecosystem and freedom for all, not just for a limited few. So already coming out with a direct shot at recognizing that the stipulations the PGA is putting in place is really targeted at the big names that Live has, and we've already talked about that, but that they recognize that. One that supports players' rights to compete across various platforms, reinforcing the belief that growth of the game is best served when the game's best players are empowered to seek the most competitive environments around the world. So they're 100% leaning into what they believe are the weaknesses of the PGA here with this statement. And they're, like I said, this just screams to me that they know they've lost, they're beaten, so they just want to remind everybody before they go out quietly that the other end of this is not perfect. You know, you see it in relationships, you see it in at work, you see it here in professional sports. That is 100% the way that I think this is coming across. Live Golf's vision remains unchanged: to grow the game of golf globally, and as that vision gains momentum across the broader golf landscape, the capacity to deliver on it continues to strengthen by expanding pathways and opportunity beyond any single institution or interest. A lot of filler words here. this part is really just kind of let's try to sound as fancy and smart and put together as possible here, even though we're really saying one really short thing in that we think the game belongs globally and we want to do everything we can to make it accessible to all. Anybody on the PGA wouldn't disagree. That's never been the problem here or the issue here. So the picking at that. And the last part here from Live is, as the World's Golf League, you know, that they are self-imposing, calling themselves the World's Golf League. Live Golf continues to offer the best professional golfers the most competitive, challenging, and lucrative environment in which to pursue greatness on a global scale. Long live golf. So, look, they had to put something out. I get it. One of their biggest names, excuse me, chose to leave. Excuse me, I apologize. Chose to leave and is going to kind of leave a hole in their lineup now. So they had to say something. And I guess no matter what they said, it was probably going to come across with that tone that I'm reading in. Maybe not everybody reads it that way. That's just how I read it. So yeah, that's kind of that quick update on the TGL as well. They are on the head-to-head singles hole 12 now. New York's now up 6-3. New York has one hammer left. Jupiter Lynx has two left. So after a quick 3-0 lead from Jupiter Lynx, they have been shut out from that point on, as New York has taken complete control of this match at this point, and we'll see what happens down the stretch here. Oh, I apologize. All this talking is just making me cough, guys. But news and events off to the side. I think it's time we dip our toes back into the fantasy realm with some rankings, with some course info. Let's see if we can all win some money together. So, yes, if you were around for the earlier years of the show, Divots and Pivots, it was originally started and based around DFS golf, mainly DraftKings every now and then, mixing it up with some Underdog, with some FanDuel and some other formats. But mainly we are looking at DraftKings. I'm going to be using DraftKings pricing. I'm going to be using the DraftKings tournaments. We are unsponsored by DraftKings. I would gladly take a sponsorship from DraftKings. So if they are listening, come my way, please. divotsandpivots@gmail.com. We'll happily take your sponsorship. But we have kind of the first kickoff tournament of the year. We don't have the Century this year because of the course conditions out there in Hawaii. That course was And I forget the name of the course. We talked about it last week, but the course was in horrendous shape. So no surprise that the Century couldn't happen this past weekend there. But now we get the Sony Open here on schedule at Waialae Country Club, which I probably said wrong. And kind of the main thing to know about coming into Waialae Country Club is you want to hit the fairways here. Now, I know we see a lot of times with these Hawaiian courses, scoring is often, I don't want to say easy because that seems unfair, but they're very gettable courses for the most part, it seems historically. I'm not saying Waialae is not, but it kind of only is if you're able to hit the fairways. So we're definitely going to be focusing on some fairway stats this week when it comes to this. I haven't looked at what the weather's supposed to be, but come on, it's Hawaii. It shouldn't be a factor. Maybe the wind will be a factor, but either way, we'll get to that. The first kind of key stat that, like I said, mentioning that missing the fairway is a huge penalty here. We're definitely going to be having fairways gained as part of our 5 key stats. Now, I use fantasynational.com for all of my golf stats, for all my creating my models on and whatnot. So they have fairways gained on there as the name of the stat. Other sites might use good drives or fairways hit in regulation, or like that. There's probably a couple different ways that it's named. They all are probably, I know for a fact they're all slightly different in the kind of the stats and metrics that they pull from to get that specific percentage. And just pulling up the TGL real fast. Fat Perez hanging out at the SoFi Center tonight, actually. So love to see that. If you watched the show before, I'm a big Bob Does Sports fan. So seeing Fat Perez out there, which, by the way, I'm not sure if it's still going to make sense to call him Fat Perez. Fat Perez lost a lot of weight. He's continuing to lose a lot of weight. So might be the dawn of Skinny Perez. We'll see. But check out Bob Does Sports. Always good stuff. But so once again, fairways gain going to be the first stat we're kicking off with. You got to hit these fairways. If you hit these fairways, that is when this course is going to be gettable for you. It's when you're going to be able to get around and score some points. With that said, par fives are gettable here. They are some of the easier holes on the course. So you get home in 2. Scoring should be possible. So birdies are better is something that we're going to want, because I think there is going to be enough scores here, low scores here, that you gotta have to keep up. This isn't the type where you can get home with par and expect to be in the mix. So you're going to need to get birdies or better out there. So I like that stat as well. Excuse me. And like I said, whether you're in the fairway or not, because of that balance and that penalty, greens and regulation is going to be another big stat. You're going to need to hit these greens, especially like I said, if you can get home in 2 on these par fives, that's going to be fantastic. You're going to be ahead of the game. So fairways, greens and regulation gained is going to be stat number 3. And then the thing to know about these greens as well, big greens. These are very big greens. So hitting the green might not necessarily be a problem technically for the stats, standpoint. It might not be a problem for a lot of these guys, but you will be left with a lot of longer putts. So I don't usually get specific in my putting distance when I include putting stats in my model. But this week I did go putting 10 to 15 feet out, because even if you're not going to hit those putts, I want you to be able to put it close where you can get home and at least save par. Or if you're 10, 15 out on a par 5, you can still birdie. We're going to need those birdies, those eagle opportunities to stay alive in this. And then with the length of the holes and where these drives and the shape of them, where these drives are going to end up, you're going to want guys who are good from the approach, from about 150 to 175 out. So that's the most common approach shot distance. So that will be the 5th stat, key stat that we'll be going with. So once again, that's going to be fairways gained. That's going to be birdies are better gained, greens and regulation gained, putting from 10 to 15 feet, and then proximity on approaches 150 to 175. Now, what does all that mean? Really all depends on how we or you all look at all those stats. You can click on all those stats in any site and put them together and see what it kicks out. I guess you still got to kind of have your own method of how you look at it, how you read it, what you still weigh out as being more important. So I don't just take these 5 stats and blindly put them into a model and pick who it spits out. I then pair that with recent results. I pair that with course history. I pair that with, as Bud would always say, strokes gained, home life, injuries, things like that. You got to look past the numbers. You got to use the eye test, the sniff test. You got to use it all. So between the key stats, between the recent results, course history, everything that encompasses what these guys are going to need week in and week out. I've compiled my list of 10 guys, my 10 core guys, and I'll list them in order, and then one honorable mention. Excuse me, which I'm not going to do every week. I'm not always going to have an honorable mention, but this week, first weekend, I thought maybe we'd include a little bonus guy, partly because one of the guys that was originally in my top 10, at least from the number standpoint, Kevin Yu, he did pull out, so Kevin Yu is not in this tournament anymore, so I filled his spot, and then because there was some guys kind of in that 11, 12, 13 range that were pretty close, I decided to include one honorable mention for you guys. So we'll start there. My honorable mention pick for the Sony Open this week is going to be Daniel Berger. I'm going to have to put a cough drop in. I apologize, guys. But Daniel Berger, in the last 24 rounds, he is 14th in greens and regulation in the field. And once again, these rankings that I list are in reference to the other players in this field. It's not, 14th on the PGA Tour this season. It's all ranked out for who's in the field. So he's 14th in the field in greens and regulation gained. He's also 10th in the field in fairways gained. And he's 3rd in the field from that approach proximity of 150 to 175. Now, he is pretty low on the list when it comes to birdies or better or putting from 10 to 15 feet out. But I will say the putting is, you always take with a grain of salt because it can come and go week in and week out. That's something that is always fluctuating. So he could be hot and all of a sudden he's hitting some of those 10 to 15 foot putts, and all of a sudden that birdie or better gain stat is going to shoot up and be more similar to his greens and regulations and fairways gain. So I'll include Daniel Berger as an honorable mention here because I think his stats are worthy enough of mentioning to where if one or two things go right for him this week, he could surprise some people and be in the mix. So Daniel Berger at the honorable mention. Now let's get to 10, 9, and 8. We'll do them in groups of 3. So at 10, I have Russell Henley. At 9, I have Keegan Bradley. And at 8, I have Emiliano Grillo. So Emiliano Grillo is someone that I find myself always wanting to play because he pops my model. I don't always, but when I do play him, he tends to do good. So at 7,400, Emiliano Grillo in that 8 spot for me, I think is fantastic value. He is 17th in birdies or better, 17th in greens, and 17th in fairways. So straight across the board there, top 20. He's top 50 in the putting and top 50 as well at number 42 in that approach distance as well. So the approach one I wish was better, but obviously something has got to give there because he's hitting greens in regulation. So something's going to balance out there. So I like taking a chance on him at his price. Now Russell Henley coming in down at number 10. He is, and part of the reason why I'm ranking him at 10 is because of his price. 10,300 on DraftKings. He is quite expensive. Excuse me. So he's definitely going to be one of the more popular plays this week. He's one of the bigger names in this field this week, which I will say for the Sony Open for an early year tournament like this, the field is actually quite good. Russell Henley, part of that Ryder Cup team for the Team USA this past fall. He looked pretty good at the Ryder Cup. He had a pretty good season overall this last year. Somewhat quiet compared to others, but he was still there in the mix. He's top 10 in greens, top 10 in fairways. top 40 in the approach distance. And then once again, his birdies are better and his putting is kind of towards the bottom, similar to Daniel Berger, a little bit better than Daniel Berger, but in that same range. So for that reason, I'm bumping him kind of down to 10th there. And then Keegan Bradley coming in at 9,300. He's going to be one of those guys in the 9K range that I think you could build around. I think there's a lot of value in the 9K range here, and Keegan Bradley coming in at 12th, birdies 16th in that putting stroke. He was putting fantastic last year. He looked great. Now I know this is take this with a grain of salt, but he was putting great last week at the TGL. I know I don't want to start using the TGL as a predictor for the actual tournament, but his stroke looked smooth. So I expect putting to continue to be good. And then he's top 10. He's number 8 in that approach distance as well. So he should be feeling it as long as he's hitting fairways. I think he's in this mix. He can be a little erratic off the tee, though, which is why I have him down here at number 9. And then jumping up to number 7, 6, and 5, Matt Schmidt at number 7, Bud Cauley number 6, and then Hideki Matsuyama at number 5. Now, Schmidt and Cauley are both priced at $7,000. Both very similar stat rankings. Matt Schmidt is 10th in birdies, 30th in greens, 20th in the putting, and 6th in the approach. He is quite low in the fairways gained, so that does make me a little nervous. But he's shown the ability to be able to still kind of scramble out of the rough and get to those greens, even when he misses the fairway. So at $7,000, I'm willing to take that chance on him. Bud Cauley is a little bit more balanced, not as high-end rankings as Matt, but he is, I think, a safer play than Matty Schmidt. So Bud Cauley's 32 in birdies, 43 in greens, but then he's 14th in fairways, 7th in that approach, and 26th in putting. So I think he's pretty balanced across the board. A nice safe play. And at $7,000, you're probably going to need a nice safe play depending on how you build the rest of your lineup. Now, the top 4 guys – oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get to Hideki yet. Hideki, 9,700. He's another one of these guys in the 9K range that I think is going to be popular. Hideki, when he's in the field, tends to, especially early season in the field like this, he tends to show up. He tends to be on the board pretty high. So he is second in that proximity approach distance, 13th in birdies, and then middle of the pack in fairways and the putting, and 26th in greens and regulation. So I like Hideki this week as well at 9,700. Now the top 4 guys are let's see, two in the 9K range, 2 in the 8K range. From what I've been seeing in different models and from what I've been hearing from other content providers, golf content providers, I think these names are going to be quite popular for good reason, though. JJ Spawn coming in at number 4. He is 2nd in birdies, 3rd in greens and regulation, 11th in putting. His putter was strong last year, strong at the Ryder Cup, so you can look to hopefully continue riding that. 9,500, he's a little bit less expensive than Hideki, so I think that is what's going to make him attractive there as well. Save $200 and probably get a similar performance and result as you would out of Hideki. And then Aaron Rai coming in at 8,200. I think he's a smash start at this price, especially. Now, he's not going to set the world on fire with birdies. That's the unfortunate part here, that he could fall flat as far. Like, I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to be able to keep up. He's going to do enough to keep up. He's 2nd in greens and regulation. He's 1st in fairway, so he's just accurate. He's going to hit the fairway just about every time, and he's going to be in position to score. He's 30th and 31st in that putting stat, 34th in the approach. So Aaron Rai, I think, is going to be in the mix, and at 8,200, it's hard to pass on a guy like that at 8,200. Coming in at number 2, Colin Morikawa, last year's villain. We'll see if he shakes that off, if he comes back to people loving him here this year. But Colin Morikawa this year, we'll see how he starts his year off. He's 9,800 in the field this week on DraftKings. He is 21st in birdies, 10th in greens, 13th in fairways, 30th in putting, and 5 in the approach. Now, obviously, his lowest – ranked stat there is the putting, and Colin's game has always been a very inconsistent putter. We saw it last year. Well, when it's on, he crushes it, and he's a force to be reckoned with. He was a bit more consistent towards the end of last year and in the fall so far this year. So I like him to kind of continue on the upslope right now. We'll see as weeks go on if we start to recognize some patterns of him kind of going back down. But for now, I think we're safe to play Colin Morikawa in at 9,800, right at the same price as Hideki. Maybe there's some ownership swing there where we can get Morikawa at a slight, advantage and discount from an ownership standpoint. And then my number one guy this week, who had a fantastic year last year. He once again, I hate saying this, but he looked fantastic at TGL so far this year when he played. Corey Connors at 8,600 on DraftKings, 19th in birdies. Birdies about a 6th in greens, 22nd in fairways, first in the approach stat. So his putting is towards the back of the field, unfortunately. But once again, when that's the only stat that sticks out as being a problem, I take it with a grain of salt because it can be so up and down, tournament to tournament, so inconsistent. So if he's just putting himself in those positions to score with that top 10 greens in regulation, with that top 25 in fairways, and with the number one approach, I think he'll ultimately be able to put it together. And 8,600 is a damn good price for a Corey Connors, who is just playing good golf right now. He was playing good golf last year, so I expect that to continue. So quickly, let's run through the names one last time for you here. At honorable mention, we had Daniel Berger. At 10th, we had Russell Henley. 9th, Keegan Bradley. 8th, Emiliano Grillo. 7, Matty Schmidt. 6, Bud Cauley. 5th, Hideki Matsuyama. 4th, JJ Spawn. 3rd, Aaron Rai. 2nd, Colin Morikawa. And our number one ranked guy for the Sony Open this week is Corey Connors. So build your lineups accordingly. If you want to shoot in the comments or an email or on Twitter at Divots and Pivots, let me know what your core guys are, why they are. Would definitely enjoy a conversation with some of you guys out there about your process and just kind of see what people do differently. That's fun for me. The conversations are fun for me. The processes are fun for me. So I apologize again about the coughing. So jump in the comments, jump in the email, jump on Twitter, get the conversation started. Let's see how you guys do, and good luck to everybody jumping back into DFS. Now, before we end the show, wanted to kind of start, actually, before we get to the end here, oh, yikes. So this match is now, the TGL match, getting back to that, this match is now mathematically over. So Jupiter has used all of their hammers. New York has one hammer left. They're on hole 14, so they only got 2 holes left, and New York is up 8-3. So this hole is over. I mean, this match is over. New York wins, but they do have to finish it out because end of the year, for playoff reasons, tiebreakers come down to points scored, holes won, that jazz. So they do have to finish out, even though mathematically New York has already won this match tonight. Now, I want to get into, don't have a fancy graphic for this yet. Still trying to figure out what I want it to look like, but I want to end every show with a new segment called the handshake. You know, when you come off the golf course, you take the hat off, you shake the people you played with hands, and you just kind of, you end the experience you just had on a good note, a respectful note, and on a lighter note, I guess. So I want to end every show with the handshake and just kind of talk about something non-golf related. It can be whatever, but this week it is still going to be sports related because if you don't know already, I'm up here in New England, Southern New Hampshire, and the Patriots got a big wild card win this past Sunday night against the Chargers. Big win, big ugly though. Ugly win. If not Drake May's worst game of the year, definitely top 3. I know he pulled it together in the second half. Second half, he looked a lot better. I think he was 11 of 14, so that completion percentage was definitely a lot more what we're used to out of Drake May so far this season. So they put it together. They did enough. They turned the ball over a ton, but the defense stepped up when needed, and Justin Herbert just continues to be a disappointment in the NFL playoffs. So Patriots win big well, not big, but they win. And they move on at 3 o'clock this coming Sunday against the Texans at Foxborough. So I think that's going to be a tough game. Be looking forward to it. But a playoff run feels nice here in New England again. Makes me happy, especially coupling that with the golf season starting. Good place to be right now. So I'm looking forward to the golf season once again. Stick around, stick with us, or stick with me. I'm going to be bringing on some guests in the coming weeks, so you don't just have to sit here and listen to me ramble alone. It's definitely more fun when I have someone to talk to. If you're interested in being a guest, if you're interested in talking more, seeing if you're a right fit for joining the show, email me at divotsandpivots@gmail. Jump on Twitter, message the show there, or jump in the comments. Either way, one way or another, I'll see it. We'll get to talking. But for now, that's going to do it for episode 2. Thanks for joining us. Thanks on TikTok as well. I know I didn't look over here as much as I should have, but I appreciate you guys all. And that's going to do it. We'll see you next week here on Divots and Pivots. Same time, same place, 8 o'clock on that Sports Podcast Network. Love you guys and stay classy.